I have a daughter. Her name is Nick. She's in kindergarten. We adopted her from the Philippines 2 years ago. Actually, this month is whenever we went to go pick her up. And she spent 2 years in our preschool. And some of you may not know this, but Crosspoint has its own preschool. It's a Christian preschool. It's located, it's called iKids. It's located at Alta Vista and Rose in Placentia. And it's an amazing atmosphere. It's an amazing place that is there. But if you ever went into Ralph's there and you see iKids, that's Crosspoint's preschool there. We're kind of our covert, okay? Giving Jesus Christ, okay, to kids, not in a church environment, but definitely a Christian preschool. And my daughter learned so much while she was there. And one of the things that she learned was this song that she sings all the time. And so I took a little video, just wanted to share it with you today. Watch this.
Have patience, don't be in such a hurry. When you get impatient, you only start to worry. Remember that God is patient too, and think of all the times when others have to wait on you.
Now, you guys think that song is cute, and we did too the first time that we heard it. So here's how this works at our house. Whenever she's all packed up, ready to go, and the family still has a few more things to do, she says, "Can we leave?" And we say, "Just wait a few more minutes." And she just stands there and says, have patience, don't be in such a hurry." And then, of course, whenever she wants a snack, says, "Hey, can I have something to eat?" And we're like, "Hey, listen, we can't get you a snack right now because, we're still getting things cleaned up after whatever." And then all of a sudden she just stands there and says, have patience, don't be in such a hurry. And then one day her brother fell off the bike. Okay, he's bleeding, thinking he has a broken arm. So we're attending to him, and she's like, "I want to watch Sofia the First. Can somebody get me Netflix?" And we're like, "Your brother's bleeding. We think his arm is broken. Hold on." And she just stands there and says, have patience. Don't be in such a hurry. Today we are going to continue in this series called Heart for Home. And in this series, we're specifically looking at the fruit of the Spirit, but this is a 10-week series that we're in, and we're talking specifically about how to grow our hearts. How do we grow our heart for our family? How do we grow our heart for the church? How do we grow our heart and develop healthy heart habits when it comes to our neighbor, to those that are in need? So that's what this series is about. And we've actually sent out some invitations in the mail. Some of you may have received them. If you didn't, we want to invite every single one of you to what we're calling advanced briefings. And in the fruit of the Spirit, there are two fruits. One is called goodness. Another one's called kindness. And we're going to have 4 different nights coming up, not this week, but the next week, where we want to share with you our strategic plan when it comes to goodness and kindness and how we're going to make a difference right here in North Orange County. And so we want to get involved in things as far as helping in sex trafficking. We want to get involved in things in the homeless crisis. And we want to get involved in some things locally in our church. And so we want to collectively have a conversation with you, share our vision, get some of your feedback. So we have 4 different nights. 4 different families in our church have opened up their homes. These are people that have the gift of hospitality. And so we're going to be getting together in groups of 50, 75, 100 people. And we want to invite you to be a part of that. So every one of you are invited, but you need to RSVP. There's free childcare. We need to know how much coffee to get. We're going to have some specialty coffee. We're going to have some desserts. It's going to be a great, great fun night. It'll last about 90 minutes or so. And so if you want to go ahead and sign up, you need to RSVP. If you can't come on a certain night, that's okay. Find another night. Just go to crosspoint.com/H4H. So I hope that all of you will consider coming and being a part. Now let's jump into this. You're going to hear more about it in the next few weeks, but I want to give you an opportunity to be able to hear it first. So if you'll come to the briefings, you'll be able to hear about it first and be able to get some input in it as well too. So with that, I want to go to Galatians chapter 5 today. That's where this series is all hinging upon. It's Galatians chapter 5. And this is the fruit of the Spirit. It says, but the Holy Spirit produces this kind of fruit in our lives: love, joy. What's the third one? Peace. Number 4, patience. Now, last week we talked about peace. Rob did such a good job. That dog story, I'm still laughing about his dog. Today, we're going to move into this section on peace. We're going to move from peace, we're going to move into patience. Then we're going to talk about kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. There's no law against these things. Now, as I was just thinking through this word patience today, and at the very beginning of this series, we did a spiritual EKG where we took all 9 of these fruit of the Spirit and we asked ourselves to rank ourselves from 1 to 5. How good are we in these areas? Where do we need to see improvement? And so today is Confessions of a Sinful Pastor today. You ready? I scored really low on this word of patience. This is not one of my strengths. And I even feel a little guilty up here today because I just need to let you know that I'm a work in progress when it comes to patience. And I kind of feel like the overweight trainer at the gym that just, eats pizza and donuts every day and just lays on the couch and eats bonbons and then tries to tell you how to work out and how to get in shape and how to eat right. I feel a little bit like that today. So I thought it'd be appropriate for me just to start the message like this. Hi, my name is Brian, and I'm a hurried life-aholic. And I struggle with this area of patience. Do I have any other fellow strugglers here today that struggle with patience? Some of you couldn't wait for me to get the words out of your mouth. You already had your hand up. So let me ask you a question. Are you a drive-through parent? Are you a run-through spouse? Are you a text message friend? Do you get yourself too busy that you're too busy for God? You're too busy to go to church, too busy to get involved in a growth group, and to come to an advanced briefing to hear about how you can get involved in the community. That all sounds great. You just don't have the time because you're too busy. See, I believe that some of you are here today and you didn't raise your hand. Some of you are watching this video right now. By the way, Ventura's watching us today. Can we welcome the Ventura campus as well, too? God is on the move in Ventura. Did you know they've grown 25% this past year? They are rippling the baptism waters. People are getting baptized, and Pastor Matt's doing a great job. And God is just really, really working there in Ventura. So we're always excited to have Ventura. They watch once a month with us. So we're so glad that Ventura is watching along with us today. And some of you may be watching this. Some of you may be watching it on YouTube. Some of you may right now be here presently in a service. And you say, I'm good. I'm good when it comes to my pace of life. I want to give you a few warning signs, just a few warning signs to check your pace. Here's how you know you may have a patience problem: constant clutter. Because rushed lives lead to clutter. Maybe you just hide it all. You hide it in the closet. You hide it all under the bed. You take the dirty dishes and you put them in the oven. And you don't need a closet organizer, you need a closet exorcist. Because you've got constant clutter, and don't look in the closets and don't look in the car. I know, you live out of that thing. Constant clutter, it leads to, it's part of like a rushed life. Who maybe has a struggle here in this area? Can we just kind of raise our hands, make some noise here today? No pointing though, no pointing, just raising your hand. Here's the second one: addicted to speed. Now, I'm not talking about the drug. Some of you here are like, downscaled to weed, not speed anymore. All right, no, not talking about the drug. I'm talking about the pace of life. You're just addicted to speed. You want things to move faster. When people are talking, you start nodding, like, get on with it. You complete other people's sentences. And if you're really sick, like me, Shannon will ask me to go to the grocery store to pick up 1 or 2 items. I'll pick up a couple items and I'm literally going to the checkout stand. And what I do is I actually count how many people are in line. I multiply it by how many items are in the cart, divided by the age of the checker. Don't judge me. And then I pick a line. And if you're really sick like me, what I do is I don't just stay in that line. I look at my second option of where I thought I should be, and I watch it the entire time. And if I get out first, I do a little happy dance back on the way to my car, and it was a good day. If not, then I walk with my head in shame, like, are you kidding me? It took this long. Any other fellow strugglers when it comes to speed in your life? And here's the third one, extreme multitasking. You may have a patience problem if you are an extreme multitasker. You know, you're on your phone while you're like on your iPad flipping through Instagram, while you're watching Netflix, while you're doing your homework all at the same time together. Driving and shaving. Cleaning out your gun while you're thinking of your roommate. Extreme multitasking. Now, these aren't as fun to admit, but here are some other signs you may have a patience problem. Superficiality. You just stay on the surface with everybody. You've got a lot of relationships that are an inch deep, mile wide. You don't have time to go deep. And you become everything to everybody, so you're always running around, which leads to the next one. You may have a patience problem if you have relationship fatigue. Relationship fatigue is when you're so busy getting everything else done that your family, the people that you love the most, they just get the leftovers. They get the table scraps. Here's another one. You may have a patience problem. Spiritual emptiness. Spiritual emptiness is when you don't have time for God. You don't have time to read your Bible in the morning because you've got to go, because you overslept or you've got an early morning appointment. You've got to go. You don't have time to pray because you're too busy trying to figure it out on your own. You can't come to church because you've got a lot that's happening and a lot that's going on and you're just too busy. Your worship shrinks. You're like, come on, let's just get to the message. Come on. Or maybe it's the message. Come on, get done with the message. We got to get to the worship. Let's go. Come on. Or we get to the end of the service whenever we're worshiping and we're singing that last song and it's like, hey, you're hitting the door. You're out. You're gone. Why? Because you got to get to the next thing. You might have a patience problem. Just warning signs. What would God say to us about this fruit of the Spirit, patience? Because if we're going to grow our hearts, we've got to develop some healthy heart habits. And I want to tell you a story today found in the Old Testament. And this is an obscure story. Some of you may never have heard this story before, even if you grew up in church. But I think it's a picture-perfect example of patience. Now, to be very clear, it's not an example. It's actually a warning. It's a warning of what not to do. So today I want to bring you to this passage of Scripture, and I want to tell you just a little bit of the context. Is there's an Old Testament king by the name of Saul. Saul was head and shoulders above everyone else. He was 30 years old whenever he became the king of Israel, and he was a master warrior. As he continued to reign in his kingdom, he had a son by the name of Jonathan, and Jonathan was like the apple of his eye. And Jonathan was also a great warrior, but Jonathan was known more for love than he even was vision. Jonathan was a lover, but Saul was very proud of him. And Jonathan, he took some troops and he went to go fight their arch enemies, which were the Philistines. And he went to go fight them, and sure enough, they killed the Philistines. And after they killed the Philistines, word began to spread that Israel is wanting to conquer the Philistines, and that God, he had his hand of favor on Israel and not the Philistines. And so word began to spread fast. So the Philistines, they began to get their army together, and they're like, we are going to go crush the Israelites. We're not going to let them have this victory. We're not going to let them get away with this. So they began to put all of their armies together. So what Saul did is he actually took a ram's horn, and after he heard about the victory, he blew the ram's horn. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard a ram's horn blow before, but it's pretty awesome. So I was in Israel last October, and we were walking around. We were walking all the sites where Jesus was. And one night we were at this restaurant, and our bus driver, he came out in the middle of us eating, like just this really cool place. He started blowing this gigantic ram's horn right there while we were in Jerusalem. And I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And I told Shannon, I said, that ram's horn, I know what that's called, but I can't remember what that thing is called. What is that thing called? I've got to buy one of those. So I couldn't take it any longer. So I got up, I went and found the bus driver. I was like, that was super cool. Listen, I forgot the name of the ram's horn. What is it called? And he said, it's called a shofar. I said, the shofar, that's it. I knew it, a shofar. And he said, you want to know how to memorize it so that you'll never forget it again? I said, I would love to. He said, shofar, so good, shofar. I said, got it, shofar, I know what it is. So I went and I bought this shofar, and we keep it around the house right now. So every time something great happens in the house, me and Braden, we blow it as loud as we can, like in the house. Our team wins, okay? We get excited, we blow the shofar. Shannon cooks tacos, that's my favorite meal. I blow the shofar, okay? It's just what I do. It is the sound of celebration at our house. So Saul, and by the way, we're going to Israel again next October. And if you want to come, I'm going to buy a bigger one. This one's not loud enough. So that's one of my souvenirs. I'm going to buy a big shofar whenever we go next October. We have 7 spots left. You want to go walk the sights of Jesus? Sign up on your connection card. Just write Israel. We'll send you some information on that. We have 7 spots. We'd love for you to go with us. So back to the story. So Saul, he blows the shofar as a sound of celebration and victory, but also as a sound, rise up. It's time for us to rise up against the Philistines. So all of the Israelites come together. Well, then all the Philistines come together, and here's what they find out, is that the Philistines have mustered up an army of 3,000 chariots. These chariots, they're like present-day tanks. And then 6,000 charioteers. Those are not cheerleaders. Those are warriors ready to fight. And the Bible says that whenever Israel begins to look at this Philistine army, they see them and they say, there's so many of them, they're like grains of sand by the seashore. They're way outnumbered. So immediately, they began, there was this song back in the 1970s, 1978, by this R&B band called Chick. And the song, you may remember it, it's called Freak Out. That's exactly what the Philistine army did, is they began to freak out. They're going to annihilate us. They're going to destroy us. And so Saul got afraid because his army started like hiding in caves and running away. And so what he did is he went to Samuel. Now, Samuel is a prophet. Samuel would speak to God on Israel's behalf, and he would give wisdom back to Saul to say, here's what God says to do. In the Old Testament, God spoke through prophets. In the New Testament, what's so amazing is because of Jesus' sacrificial death on the cross, we now have direct access to God. Isn't that amazing? We can now go immediately to the throne. We can clap for that. That's awesome. You don't have to go through me. You don't have to go through a prophet. You don't have to go through a priest. You don't have to confess your sin to me. You can confess your sin straight to God. You can ask God straight, this is what I would like to do. But here's what happens. In the Old Testament, they had to go through the prophet to be able to hear what God would do. So they go to Samuel, and he's like, Samuel, what are we going to do? And 1 Samuel chapter 10 and verse 8, Samuel gives Saul specific instruction. 1 Samuel chapter 10 and verse 8. He says, go down ahead of me to Gilgal. I will surely come down to you to sacrifice burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. But he says, Saul, you must wait, how long? Not 3 days, not 4 days, not 5 days, but 7 days until I come to you and I will tell you what you are to do. So it's my responsibility, he says, to go to God. I'm going to create an offering. After this offering, I'm going to speak to God. God's going to tell us what to do, but you need to wait. Wait 7 days. And the 7 days, you need to trust God. You need to trust and obey. 7 days. Have patience. Have patience. Don't be in such a hurry. 7 days. Pause. Wait. We get it. The armies continue to circle around them. And as the armies continue to circle around, the Israelites are freaking out. 1 day goes by, 2 days go by, 5 days go by, 6 days go by, 7 days. 1 Samuel chapter 13 and verse 8 is where we're going to read from right there. Saul waited there 7 days on the dot. Alarm went off for Samuel, as Samuel had instructed him earlier. But Samuel still didn't come. And Saul, he realized that his troops were rapidly slipping away. So what's the next word? Now this is interesting. Because now all of a sudden, Saul steps in and he says, I've got a demand. And here's the demand. Bring me the burnt offering. Bring me the peace offering. And Saul sacrificed the burnt offering himself. Now, if you're Saul, you're like, hey, he's just being proactive. People are freaking out. We got to do something about this. I mean, man, isn't God so glad to have me? I mean, I'm kind of an outside the box thinker. I mean, normally it's the priest that makes the sacrifice, but I'm the king. I know how to light that thing up. I can get that thing going. I can make it happen. I need to help God out. And you know what I love about the Bible? Is that the Bible tells us stories over and over and over of people that think they need to help God out. And the Bible isn't just loaded with this. Our human society is loaded with people like this. That's me and that's you. And how many times do we say, oh, God, you're not moving. I got to move in. God, I've got to do something. I've got to make it happen. And we start making these demands, and we start controlling, and we start manipulating, and we start rushing ahead of where God would have us. And it says that he offered up the burnt offering. So while he's smoking up the burnt offering, while he's praying the prayer, God, what should we do? It says in verse 10, just as Saul was finishing with the burnt offering, Samuel arrived. Saul, he went out. They said, Samuel's here. He's here. He's here. So Samuel went out to meet and welcome him. But Samuel said, I smell something. Is that smoke in your clothes? There's been a sacrifice. What is this you've done? And Saul replied, hey, listen, I saw my men scattering. You didn't arrive when you said. The alarm went off. You were supposed to be here. You weren't here. And the Philistines, they're at Michmash. They're ready for battle. So I said, verse 12, the Philistines are ready to march against us at Gilgal, and I haven't even asked for the Lord's help. That's not true. 7 days before, he did ask for the Lord's help. He wasn't patient. He says, I didn't ask for the Lord's help. We can spiritualize so many things in our life, can't we? When it comes to making decisions, we can spiritualize it. We can over-spiritualize it. He says, so I felt compelled to take over. Has it ever occurred to you that nothing has ever occurred to God? God never says, oh, I'm running late. Oh, no. So often we get impatient. The Philistines are ready to march. I got to go. I felt compelled to offer the burnt offering myself before you came. Verse 13. when you move outside of God's plan and God's will, it always ends with these two words. How foolish. How foolish. Samuel explained. You've not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. Had you kept it, the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. You wouldn't have had to worry about this battle, but now your kingdom has to end. The Lord sought out a man after his own heart. You know what a man after God's own heart has? Patience, relying upon God. It's the one part of the fruit of the Spirit that he missed. The Lord's already appointed him to be the leader of his people because you have not kept the Lord's command. You didn't do what I said. I want to just give you three things here. 3 lessons if you find yourself waiting. 3 lessons from this story if you find yourself waiting. And can I just share with you, I struggle in this area of waiting because I want things now. I want things fast. And I often find myself in God's waiting room. Ever find yourself in God's waiting room? I don't know about you, I hate waiting rooms. I can't stand them. You go into a waiting room, you wait. They tell you, hey, you need to be here at 1 o'clock. I'm there at 12:55, and now it's 1:15, 1:20, 1:25. I'm waiting, and I've read all the magazines, and all the magazines are from the 90s. I don't care anymore. And I'm sitting in an uncomfortable chair, and the people around me, listen, they're not delightful. These are people that are waiting too. No one's real pleasant to talk to in a waiting room. You're just waiting and waiting. And then finally your name gets called. You're like, yes. So they call your name and you walk out of the waiting room. And what do? They put you in a smaller waiting room. And what do they say? Wait here. And you wait longer. Sometimes God puts us in the waiting room. And why are we in the waiting room? To learn to trust him. The waiting room is about trusting and it's obeying. So 3 lessons quickly in the waiting room. The first is this. You need to install a world-class morning routine in your life. I'm specifically talking about your God time. You need to install a world-class morning routine. We live in a culture of cyber zombies. Have you noticed this? When you walk out of here, you'll see them everywhere. People just addicted to distraction, afflicted with interruption. Cyber zombies. You can point out, oh, there's a cyber zombie, there's a cyber zombie. They're all over. They're even in this room right now. And the wisest way to make good decisions in life is to consult God. And spiritual winning starts at the beginning of your day. Isaiah 40:31 says, but those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. If you don't want to faint, if you don't want to be tired, if you don't want to be weary, if you need strength, it's found in your times with God. You need to install a world-class morning routine. Listen, we're in football season. I love watching football. And as you're watching football, the best quarterbacks, Mahomes, by the way. Some people are going to say Brady. I'm going to say Mahomes, okay? I'm from Kansas City. I can pick these things out, I know. And here's the deal. Wilson, he's saying over here, but I don't know. We'll see. So here's the deal. The best quarterbacks are patient in the pocket. When they're patient in the pocket, it allows the receivers to be able to get open upfield. But the moment they start rushing it, that's when they miss it. The big plays are made when you're patient in the pocket. Take care of the front end of your day, and God will take care of the rest of your day. Here's the second thing. Take it under advisement. You may need some advisement. Listen, we all need advisement. This is Worship Together weekend. We got 5th and 6th graders in here. We've got our junior high in here. Listen, one of the wisest things you students can do is ask somebody older than you. Get some wisdom. Ask your parents. Ask somebody that is godly. Ask somebody who is where you want to be. Listen, take it under advisement. If you're in God's waiting room, get some counsel. In the multitude of counselors, there's safety, is what Proverbs 11:14 says. Take it under advisement. And the third thing is this. You got to recognize this. God can do more in one moment than you can do in one lifetime of work. God can do more in one moment. He can turn the heart of a king. He can turn around your marriage. He can turn around your kids. He can turn around this impossible situation. I've watched him do it before, and God can do more in one moment than you can demanding and trying to put it all together. The question is, will you trust God? Because God, he's never early. God's never late. God is always right on time. I told you about my daughter, Nick. We, 2 years ago, we went and picked her up. But I remember 6 years ago, my wife coming to me and she said, Brian, we need to talk tonight. And she said, it's serious. And, you know, when your wife says we need to talk tonight and it's serious, that's worse than like an IRS audit right there. It's like, what did I do? So I'm like racking my brain, like, can we talk now? She's like, no, tonight. I'm like, seriously, you can do this to me like all day? So all day, racking my brain. We get together that night and she says, I feel compelled and just led to adopt. And I would love to just adopt. And I felt this way since I was a teenage girl. We've talked about it before, but I just feel compelled to adopt. And I remember that night, her and I praying together. And I said, I'm all in. We're all in to adopt. So we filled out our paperwork. And after we filled out our paperwork, we sent it in. And they told us it was going to take 18 months to be able to get our little girl. So 18 months. So every night, we got our other 2 children together and we prayed every single night. We looked forward to that time. And then it went 15 months. We're like, anytime, it's coming up. 16 months, oh, we're ready. Here we go. 17 months, 18 months. Hold on, the alarm clock's off. 19 months, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years is how long it took for us to be able to get matched and to be able to get the word that we could go pick up our daughter. And we're like, why is this taking so long? We found ourselves in God's waiting room, and we couldn't figure it out. We didn't know why. Can I tell you? God, in his timing, we got a phone call 1 week before the grand opening of this building right here 2 years ago. 1 week before the grand opening, they said, you can come and get her. You need to come and get her right now. Now, here's what's so cool about this whole story. Do you know when my daughter was born? She was 4 years old when we got her. She was born the exact same day that we submitted our paperwork. Only God could do that. God knew she was our child from the very beginning, but he was preparing her, and he was preparing us. And I sometimes wonder, God, why did that have to take 4 years? But then I look back at that last 4 years of what happened and what was going on in my life and what was going on in Shannon's life. And you know what we were doing? We were trying to find a new building for Crosspoint Church. And we were spending that time and had 13 buildings fall apart while we were waiting. Then we finally found this location. And you know, it took a significant amount of God power and people power and manpower to build and construct this building. I learned so much about city government. I learned so much about construction. I know more about real estate. I didn't go to school for any of this stuff, but I learned all this stuff in this. But you know how much time that sucked up? You know how much time that consumed? And I just wonder if in God's perfect plan, he knew that I would be so distracted, I'd be so unfocused, that whenever we brought this little girl into our home, that she would need a considerable amount of love and attention and grace from her father. And that's when I realized, all in God's timing, when I thought he was running late, God said, no. I'm running right on time. So if you find yourself in God's waiting room this morning, remind yourself, God's never early. God's never late. God is always right on time. And you might just need to sing to yourself today. Have patience. Have patience. Don't be in such a hurry.